Hello everyone and welcome to a 16 Dawnbreaker. This is the hardest key, or one of them, to heal as in a pug, as in a pickup group, not a pre-made group. Okay, things you have to look out for. First, early on, you have to find out who the squishiest people in your party are. In this case, it is me and the hunter. So the first two pulls, the most dangerous things that happen are tormenting rays. They will target 2 party members at a time, and thus I want to be ready on this first pull to make sure that me and the hunter have heals over times, a decent amount of heals over times going on. I don't know who the first 2 tormenting rays are going to hit, so I will have at least 1 rejuvenation on everyone and life blooms on the squishy people when those tormenting rays are about to hit, and they do come out really fast. When I get hit by a tormenting ray, I want to make sure I use my bark skin, my personal, to stay alive. And I might even iron bark another person if I don't feel like they have a defensive, or if I see they do not have a defensive. I get hit by the tormenting ray, I'm spamming regrowth, and everything's good. You do have to dispel that spell that goes right on you. Stygian Seed, if you do not dispel that, that will do massive damage as well. You have to dispel that instantly on a squishy player. Otherwise, now I'm prepping for the next tormenting rays. I have a good guess at who they will be on, because whoever got tormenting raid last time will not be tormenting raid the next time. So you have a really good chance at guessing who will be the next people. Again, prioritize your squishy people. The tank shouldn't need a whole lot of help here, unless it's kind of near the end of the pull, and I know the pally, I believe, is saving his defense for the next pull, and so you should be able to ignore the tank unless they get tormenting ray or just get hit by some random spells that go off. Otherwise, focus on your squishy players. Same thing goes here. You will have lust for this pull, so that will help, but I'm looking for the tormenting rays and the dispels. Instantly, priority as a healer is dispel the Stygian Seed, and then get your heal over times up on your party members. Dispel, and then tormenting rays, right? Fortunately, I was ready, and I had life bloom and rejuvenations on the people who had tormenting rays, myself and the hunter. Now, tips for yourself to live the tormenting ray: you can use bark skin, or you can shift into bear form and cast frenzy rejuvenation. But the problem is, if you go into bear form and cast frenzy rejuvenation, you don't know if the other person who has tormenting ray is going to live. So I will shift into bear form if the other guy has a good amount of heals over times on him, and I think he has a defensive, or I know he has a defensive, and because it essentially, if you go in bear form and cast frenzy rejuvenation, it will be, and you will not die, and you will heal up actually to full. So those are the things to watch out for as a healer there. Tormenting rays, you do not have to worry about damage here. I was adding a little bit of damage early on because I felt really good about the tormenting rays, but the reason why the tormenting rays are easier here is because I have a paladin with devotion aura. That makes such a huge difference, and I believe there's additional damage reduction. I know ret paladins have it, where if they judgment someone, there's like a little bit less damage. I believe holy paladins have that too. You can correct me, but I just know that I love pally tanks because they reduce the damage, and if you can feel the damage reduction they give you when you're a healer. I know on paper it doesn't look like a lot, but whenever there's one in there, you go into the key and you feel these group or raid-wide damage abilities, like they do significantly less damage. And so tormented rays, for example, if I don't have a pally tank, I know I'm sweating bullets when those tormented rays are coming out. But here I'm feeling comfortable, and I actually do more damage than I normally do in pug keys. Because in pug keys, again, you do not know who's going to take crazy amount of damage out of nowhere, right? Or who's going to miss a kick or not kick at all. And so you just have to be ready for it. On these pulls, you really don't have to stress out at all. The only thing you have to look out for as a healer here is make sure that whoever gets that exploding cocoon ability on them, if they're squishy, remember, like a cloth wearer or someone who doesn't have any defensives, then I would cast my iron bark on them. But if they are not squishy, I would just make sure they're full health when it explodes, and I would spam regrowths on them. I totally screwed up because I'm used to tanks going the other way first. So here we go. And so again, what do you have to look out for here? Well, help kick, sure. But just make sure that when someone gets that cocoon on them and explodes, you're ready for it. Otherwise, everything else is pretty straightforward. Help out with kicks. There's really not a whole lot to kick here, so your party's going to be really good at catching it, I think. And this is a good time where you can end damage. And there it is, the cocoon. Even on a DK, he was hurting, so I was like, oh crap. And so I went into normal form and spammed him really hard there. Okay, so when someone gets a cocoon, spam them with heals. It would be better if you had heal over times on them first, then you wouldn't have to stress out like I did right there. But I knew that this is time to add damage in, okay, because it's not really a serious pool like the first two were in terms of healing. Okay, now this boss is really hard to heal if you are not prepared for it, do not know what to do. First off, instantly get those heals over times rolling. You saw as soon as I landed, I didn't even wait for that fight to start. I just started getting those heal over times on. Why? Because Obsidian Beam is going to come out. Okay, and here it is. When the Obsidian Beam starts, everyone takes damage like you saw there. It shouldn't one-shot people who are decently good at surviving, and that's a good thing. Now, the next thing you have to do after that is bait those circles. Okay, those will come after that Obsidian Beam, at least on the first time around. And so you as a healer, especially if you're the only ranged player, it'll only go on ranged players, is you're gonna have to stand far away from the center of the ring so that you can give your group plenty of space to work with. Now, the hard part is the Dispel there, like we had, and Obsidian Beam. That's when things get dangerous, and you really got to use your cooldowns. Okay, use your Lumithar's Living Silk. I would personally use only one cooldown, either Lumithar's Living Silk, my Convoke, or Tranquility, to catch any of those serious damaging abilities. Like for example, this one, if I feel like I'm getting behind on the Dispel, then I will use a cooldown. But most of the time you can just power through those Dispels. But when they overlap, like this one did, that's when I really want to use a cooldown. But I was actually feeling really confident there. I screwed up there. I shouldn't have been in melee, trying to add in damage. That was dumb. Now the tank has to move the boss because I was just being greedy with damage. So the Dispel here, now this Dispel was not followed up by a Obsidian Beam, and I knew it wasn't because I have the timer on my right, and so I wasn't stressed out using cooldowns. And note, I still have my Convoke and my Tranquility. I'm feeling really good right now because I was like, hey, I can just power through this. I'm so impressed with Druid healing. Now, how I'm doing this is I'm making sure I have heals over times up before anything big comes out, right? So I am burning mana, but this is the safest way to do it if you're in a pug. Now, what happened there is that at 50% the boss will do this, this cinematic, and that he will do damage. If you stay in there, you die, obviously. You get on your mount, you fly out, but the trick is you want to make sure everyone's 100% before you get up and fly, okay? We were fortunate in that the boss hit 50% and this spell did not come out, okay? Because if this one comes out and you're flying around, people die, and I've seen groups wipe from this, including many I've been in. Okay, so what you're going to want to do again after the Obsidian Beams, get ready to bait the dark circles. Just stand a little bit far out, not too far out of range, but just enough to give your group space. Don't stand in it too long. You'll take an extra tick and you will die, or you will take a tick and you will die. But otherwise, use your clear casting Regos for powerful heals. Don't hold on to them. If you get it, use it. And you will be able to save your cooldowns. I still have Tranquility. I'm feeling great. I could be doing better with mana and damage, but right now I just know that my group's damage is good. If I can keep them alive, we're going to time this key. Okay, don't worry about damage, especially on this fight, because you might accidentally bait the circle like I did. You might screw up. Okay, just make sure that before Obsidian Beam comes out, you have heal over times on your party. If you don't understand what I mean by heal over times, I have a healing rotation video that talks you exactly through pretty much what I'm doing here, T for T. Okay, so if you're getting behind a Dispel like I am, you've got to start burning things. Okay, make sure you're using your Swiftman like I did there. But I have my Tranquility still for an oh crap moment where I'm getting behind. And I'm trying to keep it there just in case I'm getting behind, because I know that if I can power through it, muscle through it with my healing rotation, my general one, I'm great. And man, that felt good. I was like, we got this, because if this went that smooth on a 16 key, I felt like I knew that the rest of it we were going to do. Okay, here, this next pool will depend on where the tank takes you, because it could be here or it could be a little higher up on the stairs. Here, you want to drink in the middle as soon as you can, because you really won't get another good time to get a big drink in. So for this fight, you have to dispel immediately. And again, well, here you got to watch out for more casts. You should be helping out with interrupts. Make sure that if you're getting targeted, you are shifting into bear form and you're keeping yourself to 100% health, obviously. In this fight, you do really want everyone at like really high health in a pug. There are a decent amount of casts that go off here. And for example, right there, right? Like that one went off. Just make sure that you got everyone full here. Dispel immediately. This isn't an extremely hard pool, but if people stand in something like a frontal, like that cone that just went off, it can go sour really fast. I see it happen even at high keys, these 16 keys. People still do it, zone out, or get tired, so just bear with it. These next pulls really depend on the tank, because there's no one standard route I see people do, even at 16, 15 keys. Everyone just kind of does something a little different. And it really depends on your group composition, I believe, and what the tanks are comfortable with. So just know that all you got to do for these kind of pools is the same kind of concept. Keep everyone full with your heal over times. Add in damage when you can. Your rip and your shred, okay? And if you're in trouble, use Lumithar's Silk, or if you think a lot of spiky damage is coming, use your Lumithar's Silk. Use your Convoke when you're in trouble, and if you're feeling really confident, I was, but I still holding on to Convoke and Tranquility. Use them when use Convoke on cooldown if you feel really confident, because using it even just on cooldown will give you damage, which is nice. You can shift into cat farm and cast it right for more damage, or you can just cast it. I have a trinket, I can't pronounce it, the Might's trinket. It's in my build video, where if I do damaging spells, it will give me more intellect. And so I don't mind just free casting Convoke kind of on cooldown if I'm feeling super stupid confident that I can muscle through everything, which I'm pretty sure I can do for the next little bit, but I'm still just keeping it. Because, well, damage, yes, helps. At this key level, your damage shouldn't be the difference between timing it and not. I guarantee you that 99.9% of the time, it'll be because of deaths. Stupid deaths that people stand in, or the deaths you weren't prepared to heal through, okay? And I'd rather make sure that the deaths I didn't heal through correctly don't happen versus my little itty bit of damage. Now, the professionals at the highest key levels in the world, the damage does matter there. Here, it's a lot different story in pug keys, okay? So here, nothing too new to worry about, okay? This, I don't even see a lot of groups take this pool. But again, watch out for those tormenting rays, or whatever those are called. I can't see it at this point. But those, watch out for those. They do hurt, just like the tormenting rays from earlier. Those are tormenting beams. It's not as bad, but they can still hurt if you're not ready for them. So notice I'm keeping a good amount of heal over times on my party before I go in for damage. But to be honest, you could be more aggressive with damage here. And if I had one critique for me, it would be I can kick more, interrupt more. I could use my Vortex and my Typhoon, for example, on these mobs to stop a cast or two. And I could do more damage. So there's plenty of things I could have done in retrospect. But here I'm being really conservative, just trying to keep all my cooldowns for a rainy day and make sure that, you know, everyone's safe. All right, so looking pretty good so far. Like here, damage would have been just fine, particularly when it's super safe and there's only one or, a few mobs left. Definitely feel free to go in there and add some damage in there. I accidentally pressed my Lumithars there. Did not mean to do that, and I was like, oh crap. I was like, that's bad. If the tank takes us strictly right to the next mini boss, we might be in trouble. So I was like, oh no. So that was going on in my head. But otherwise, here we go. We'll see where he takes us. I can't even remember. Oh yeah, here we go. We are going to the next mini boss. I was like, damn it! We couldn't have gone. I really had to use that there on accident, because this one's difficult. So what's going to happen here? How pugs usually do this one is you're going to be standing here down this hall, and anyone who gets hit by an arcane orb, you have to guide the arcane orb all the way down the hall, and then you're going to have to, as a healer, you're going to have to make sure everyone's 100% health. And as a Resto Druid, you're going to want to make sure that you got healer times on everyone when the arcane orb goes off. This group pool is dangerous, and that's why a lot of people lust it, because there are a lot of casts and because of these Arcane Orbs. If that Arcane Orb hits a hard surface, it will blow up and it will hurt everyone, particularly in that hallway. The further it goes away before exploding, the less damage your party takes. So if it hits that hallway corridor, you're probably going to wipe. And so just know that you have to aim that Arcane Orb down the hallway perfectly to not hit any of the walls on the sides and make sure you get everyone healed up. So I'm looking, okay, all right, great. I'm dodging as well. I go into bear form so that before it hits, so that I won't take any damage at least. That's a good thing to do, but if another cast goes off and it hits a party member and I didn't precast a heal, someone might die, just know that. But that's what I like to do when I believe I don't have to focus additional healing on top of the Arcane Orb. Here, so their tank usually will throw the Arcane Orb that way or other melee, but casters will usually sit down this corridor. And so otherwise, that actually felt really good. I've seen many groups wipe here because of the Dark Orb was not kited or aimed correctly. And so I went, okay, where are we going now? Because the tank did not share his route. Tanks usually share routes for 16 keys. And so here we go. This is a different kind of pull that I don't see many groups. I don't think I've ever, I've never seen a group start at the bottom there and go up. Usually they start up top and the tank pulls. So that was a little strange to me. But here we are. This is a very, very dangerous, I guess you could say, mob or mini boss if you are not ready for it. The biggest thing you have to worry about is there are a lot of casts that are going off. There is damage over time that will go off, right? There are Abyssal Blast. You get shot, and it puts a little bit of damage on you too, but that can really hurt. Make sure you shift into bear form when you're going to get hit by it. And here we go, Abyssal Blast again. I just ate that one. Not too bad, I suppose. I guess it's not really a damage over time. Just got like a little bit of tick to it, but not really a whole lot, it seems like. Now, this is what you have to watch out for, okay? That AoE that boss does right there, okay? That's the one you have to use either Convoke or make sure full heals over times are on everyone for. I was like mass ready for this because I wasn't sure how hard it was going to hit with the Pally tank. I've done this many attempts, probably 8 attempts on a 16 key alone, and so I'm kind of used to, like, I was expecting bigger damage, to be honest, and so I was like, oh wow, easy. I muscle healed through that without using a Swiftman or my Nature's Grasp. I'm like, I got this in the bag, and so I was feeling really great at this point. I knew I didn't have any cooldowns. Thank God the DK threw their bubble there, their AMZ, Anti-Magic Zone. And so I've still got crap heals. I've got 2 Nature's Grasps to use, so I'm trying to hold on to it for a rainy day. But we made it through it and it was great. So again, for that boss, it's really dangerous. You have to watch out for those direct casts, which usually do a lot more if you don't have a Pally tank, and if people don't have a lot of versatility. And you have to watch out for the AoE. That is massive AoE damage. If you do not have heals over times on your party before that AoE damage, you're going to have to use a cooldown or be blasting heals, okay? These mobs are extremely dangerous, okay? Extremely dangerous. Again, we have the Tormenting Beam, which hurts. We have a lot of casts going off here. I don't like it, but it is what it is. You are probably going to have to use a cooldown here and there. I did use my Lumathars because this is a lot of spiky damage. Very dangerous. I don't want to lose anyone now to these crappy mobs when we've been rolling smooth so far in the key. Okay, Tormenting Beams hurt. Do respect them. Just like we did for the Tormenting Rays or Beams in the beginning. I'm getting confused with names. Why does Blizzard have to name everything so similar names? But those Rays in the beginning felt like they hurt more than these ones. I couldn't tell you why. But just know that you are going to have to be ready and still counter these. Keep heal over times on the squishiest people in your party. And also make sure you got your defenses ready. Your personal defense is ready. And again, I have 30% versatility at a 16 key, and I'm feeling really good about that. I use a versatility flask. I'm usually the weakest or the squishiest person in the party, or at least I felt that way when I did not have high versatility, okay? So make sure at a 16 key, you're pulling out high versatility, okay? At least 20%, I'd say. All right. I'm really happy whenever a DK gets hit by the Tormenting Beam because DKs are really tanky. Extra tip for this key, if you get to choose, make sure you got only like 1 or 2 squishy people. You really don't want a whole party of squishy people if possible. It's not impossible to do, obviously, and you can do it. But life is so much better when you got a plate wearer in your party. Even having demon hunters who use leather are really good at taking damage. They're like, if they know how to handle it well. So really cool. This is one of the hardest bosses or the hardest heal checks in the entire Mythic dungeon rotation we have right now. Okay, and the problem really is overlapping abilities. Okay, I had a lag spike there and I was like, oh hell, so I busted Lumathars just in case because I couldn't see anything. Now that circle AoE damage, if anyone's in that melee, for example, they will take a good spike of damage. Shadowy Decay is the hardest thing you have to watch out for here. It will burn people to the ground, and it lasts so much longer than you wish it did. All right, so you always have to use a cooldown there if possible, and people gotta use defenses. All right, and so you can muscle through it, but it's not easy to do. Okay, if you're going to muscle through it, you need to have full heals over times, and you need to be blasting your squishy members with your clear casted regrowths, and you're probably going to use Nature's Grasp. All right, so far I'm most worried. I'm trying to hold cooldowns for the overlap. Here's Shadow Decay. That's not an overlap, and so I'm not super stressed. I did use Tranquility because I felt like everyone was using their defensives, and that was a good guess looking back in retrospect. And so I did use a cooldown there. If your party has used their personals and their defensives, and you're going into one of those Shadow Decays like naked, someone's going to die, or they're going to die. Okay, so the hardest part about this fight is the overlap. When you get animate shadows on you, go close to the boss so that boss can pull in these adds. Not super stressful for the healer at least. So the hardest part is when one of these orbs, the explosion from the orb that goes out, and as a range you're going to want to pull it out that way backwards, is when he overlaps the Shadow Decay and this right here. Okay, I was ready for it though. I was like, it's coming. So I knew, so I was blasting. Thankfully the DK dropped AMZ, but when a Shadowy Decay and the Arcane Orb goes off at the same time, that's usually where a wipe will occur. And the tank messed up here, and so that was no good, but we thank God recovered here. It was messy and it was close. In retrospect, I should have Nature's Grasp then battle res the tank, but I was panicking. I was scared we were going to wipe. Here comes Arcane Orb, and so I'm really scared because I know it's going to pop. And there's another overlap. We had the circle there, and that was nasty on top of the Arcane Orb, so that was really dangerous. But then here comes the Shadowy Decay, and now I'm panicking, and there goes my Convoke. Okay, that was a nasty overlap of essentially 3 abilities. Not precise overlap, but they were very close to each other. That's the most dangerous part of this whole encounter. Okay, and so I made it through there, but now I go, oh crap, I have 0 cooldowns here. So I'm really scared now. I've got nothing big. I've got 1 Nature's Grasp, and so we gotta muscle this. So in my mind, I was like, okay, it's time to use your skins. And so I'm probably going to even Bark Skin here, and maybe even Iron Bark. Notice I still have my Iron Bark and my Bark Skin. What you could do, and it doesn't look like I did, I should have Bark Skin there. I did Iron Bark somebody. I actually Iron Barked the tank there because they looked like they were getting a little scary, and he did die once. But what you probably want to do is Iron Bark a squishy DPS and then Bark Skin yourself. I didn't use my Bark Skin. I should have. Make me take a lot less damage. It got a little scary there, and we made it through it. Thank God. Okay, and so now I'm looking at my cooldowns because I know more Tormenting Rays are coming. From what I've heard, top players say is that the Tormenting Rays or Beams or whatever they're called here don't do as much as the first ones you see in the first couple pulls of the dungeon, but they still hurt. And so, yeah, here it is, Tormenting Eruption. This still hurts. Like, look at our health here. If I wasn't ready for that because I was drinking, I did have to catch a drink there. And so I almost died, and so I'd used a Bark Skin there, right? If you come in late to this pool, you're going to have to use some either cooldowns or personals, defensives, etc. Again, here we go, the dang Tormenting beams or whatever they're called. God, they suck. So again, for those, if they go on 2 party members, they will not go on those 2 party members again. Tormenting Eruption, that's what this one's called. All right, so it went on the other 2 people, so I was ready for it. And now you're going to see me transition to the other 2 DPS and, of course, the tank. So I'm going to start, see, I put my Life Blooms on the other DPS, and there it is. I was ready. I used my 2 clear casted regrowths, and then I got my wild growth as well, and I just muscled through it. So that was great. So, but this is the only reason why this is going so smooth is because I was ready for it, and I failed 15 keys because I was not ready for these tormenting things that come at you. Okay, they all hurt. If you are not ready for it, as a Resto Druid at least, someone's going to die, and it's probably you because you're usually the squishiest in the party. Okay, and so here we go. The boss here is pretty easy, to be honest, if you stick to a couple principles. At least as a Resto Druid, I will not help with the bombs, okay? And the bombs are the hardest part of this encounter because right after the bombs come out, here we go, he's going to do Erosive Spray, and this can wipe the party if you are not ready and spamming heals there. You got to make sure your whole party has full heal over times, and you're casting your 2 clear casted regrowths, and then that's how you can pure muscle it. I didn't use a cooldown there, right? Pretty much for this whole dungeon, you need an add-on that tells you the countdown timers of the boss abilities, which is the thing on my right you see where all those abilities are counting down. If you do not have that as a Resto Druid, you are going to probably lose unless you memorized every single damage pattern from the bosses. Okay, now this is a very valuable lesson. I got greedy with damage here. Okay, I got greedy with damage, and I went in cat form. I put up a little bit of damage, just a little bit, and then I got behind on my heal over times, okay? And that's what happened there, and that's why someone died. What I should have done in retrospect, whenever I'm behind like that, is just use my Convoke. I should have realized the boss was near the end there on percentage health. I was just freaking out a little bit. And so what I should have done is just use Convoke, and someone would not have died there, okay? That was an example of holding on to your cooldowns for too long, okay? I did not play perfectly there, right? And so when the boss is getting low health, just, you got time here. There's a good amount of time right here that we're sitting waiting to recoup our cooldowns, right? Looking back on the boss health, I believe it happened around 62%, which is where he transitions to the next phase. Feel free to correct me on that in the comments below if I'm off. So now, as soon as the boss lands, he's going to do an AoE damage ability, and it really doesn't do a whole lot of damage the first time he does it, but it does ramp up, and so you don't really need to freak out like I am here. The name of it is Acidic Eruption there. So now there are a couple things to watch out for here. First off, whoever gets this poison line, that will do damage to them if they don't use a defensive. And so I do like to make sure that life blooms are up on whoever has that. And here, when they get the webs, they have to go out to the sides. And I want to make sure I have a life bloom on each of them. And I will spam my regrowth clear casted with the clear casting buff on them, just to make sure, because they can take a lot of damage if they hang in it too long, and they can die, and it slows them down. And so just know that that's the thing. Now, this is the biggest thing you have to watch out for, right? That acid AoE. Again, I would use a cooldown on each one of those. Those do come up every so often. It's called Erosive Spray. You get usually enough time to get a cooldown on most of them that come by, or you can use your Nature's Grasp when you're in trouble on those. But otherwise, everything else here is just making sure you got good maintenance healing, as in get your life blooms on the people who have the webs. Anyone who gets hit by poison, put a life bloom on them and 1 rejuvenation, and they're probably okay. This is the thing you have to watch out for. You do have to cast a cooldown here, or you're going to have to burn those Nature's Grasps with nice regrowths, okay? And use personals or your defenses, like your skins, your Iron Bark and your Bark Skin, right? If you do not have a cooldown. But the good news is it takes quite a while for the next one to come. Again, there's webs, so that seed right there, they didn't have a defensive, and so they really got hurt by it. Here comes the Erosive Spray again. I do not have a cooldown. Let's see me muscle this. I used both of my Nature's Grasps like instantly, right? I was like, oh crap, I don't have a cooldown. And there went my Nature's Grasps. So you can think of your 2 Nature's Grasps as a whole cooldown. Like, for me as a healer, they have the same value as a Convoke, essentially, for this AoE group-wide damage buff. With those 2 and my heal over times, I will be able to make it through one of the raid-wide damages here. Okay, here we got Rolling Acid again, putting heals on him. I've got full HOTs on him, and I cast a regrowth to get him up top. Here we go. I cast my Convoke. I'm not like messing around now because I know, hey, we're going to time this, I believe, as long as we finish. I don't like looking at the timer, so I don't really know, but I'm pretty sure in my mind I was like, we're going to time this as long as I don't let anyone die. So I'm not worried about damage really because this team's got good damage for this key. So I muscle through everything except the erosive spray. All right, here we go. Those lines obviously remove the webs. You don't have to worry about it as a healer, but your damage should like put them there. Oh, here we go. And we're muscling through it with tranquility. So not necessarily muscling through it. We are using a cooldown, right? And looks good. So this fight is not extremely hard. Honestly, once we make it here, as long as someone does not mess up, I know we've got it in the bag if we have enough time. The problem is this last boss does take a good amount of time, approximately 5 minutes or close to 5 minutes. And that's really the hard part. It's not a hard boss, but it takes time. And so you need to make sure you clear things fast. All right. Otherwise, we timed it, got 14 points for it, which was nice. I was looking at my healing. I actually thought I did more damage than I had. I was kind of disappointed with only 375k DPS across the whole key. And I was doing good early on in the trash, but I got a little, I guess you could say timid or scared because I just wanted to keep everyone alive and I wasn't so sure. The more you do a key, the better you're going to get at being comfortable with what you have and the people you have. I knew this team was pretty good, and so I should have trusted them more, probably middle way through the key, so I could have done a little bit more damage. But really the only deaths that happened was my fault, right? My fault for not getting behind in one of the boss-wide damage events. I can't remember what the other death was. It didn't seem anything super significant. Oh yeah, it was the tank mess up, but that was just, one mess up across the whole group. That was really lucky. Okay, otherwise just one fail from me. I hope you learned something from watching this video. Like, comment, subscribe, and see you in the next one.